بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم.
جب نام علی منہ سے نکل جاتا ہے گھر کو ہے مصیبت ہو تو ٹل جاتا ہے. کیا نام ہے اس نام کے صدقے ہو دبیر گرتا ہوا انسان سنبھل جاتا ہے جب نام علی جب وطن سے کوچ کی مسلم کے تیاری ہوئی خانہ آل ابا میں گریا زاری ہوئی دونوں بیٹوں کی جو رخصت ماں سے یک باری ہوئی حرف زن شوہر سے اپنے یوں وہ دکھیا مرتے ہوں دوری یہ پدر میں عاشور کی بھی اتنا ہوگی میرے گھر میں کیا جانتی تھی ایسے بچھڑ جائیں گے بابا وہ دن بھی کبھی ہوگا کہ پھر آئیں گے بابا کیوں نانی رجب تھا کہ ستارے تھے سفر کو پورے 6 مہینے ہوئے دوری پدر کو حج کر کے پھرے اہل وطن خیر سے گھر کو پھر قبلہ کعبہ گئے کعبے سے کدھر کو زہرا کا قمر سوئے مدینہ نہیں آیا اس چاند کی رویت کا مہینہ نہیں آیا بابا پکٹے خیر سے یا رب یہ مہینہ اس خدشے سے غربا پھٹا جاتا ہے سینہ بابا سے میرے کوفیوں کے دل میں ہے کینہ حضرت سے لڑائی کا کہیں وہ نہ کرے کوفے کی طرف سے جو ہوا آتی ہے نانی
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمدللہ رب العالمین والصلاة والسلام علی اشرف الانبیاء والمرسلین سیدنا و مولانا ابی القاسم محمد وعلی آلہ الطیبین الطاہرین المعصومین سیما بقیت اللہ العظم روحی و ارواح العالمین لہ الفدا رب اشرح لی صدری ویسر لی امری واحلل عقدۃ من لسانی یفقہوا قولی. We welcome the Muharram of the year 1442 years after Hijrat. And in this solemn occasion that we celebrate, that has even become more solemn because of the way that we are commemorating these majalis, very different than every year. So it will be something that people remember because it's not normal. This is the abnormal. And in this, we are going to be speaking in regards to real Islam. One of the distinguishing features of Islam, a highlight of Islam, is that Islam can be distorted. It has given the room for people to change, alter, misrepresent, and pollute it. Islam can be polluted and tainted. It's not a weakness, but rather a strength of Islam, that Islam can be changed and Islam can be distorted. It's a strength. It's one of the highlights of Islam. It's one of the great points of Islam, that Islam has given the room for misrepresentation, for people to put in their opinions or change their idea of Islam or make it something else. This is something that we look at as a reality. And Islam has given that freedom and that room for us to do that, to distort the religion. And this is one of the great features of Islam. Why, you ask? Well, the reason why is because Islam talks about very difficult subjects, complicated subjects, complex subject. It delves into ghaib, or the unseen. It speaks about metaphysical things. It speaks about something that is beyond matter. It speaks about ideas that are not concrete, but stretch the bounds of intellect and intelligence. It goes into the realm of the heart. It doesn't just stick to the solid ground of reason. Islam delves into these things. Religion does that. Otherwise, if it was just something solid, like matter, or like the world, like science, what science deals in, because science deals in matter. Matter is very limited, and hence it's easy to come with concrete ideas or statements. But when Islam goes into the unseen and says alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaib, that this ghaib is a whole different category altogether. It is an amazingly huge place where misunderstandings can take place, doubts can occur, and people have the room to give their own ideas and to give their own opinions and make that or understand that to be what Islam is talking about. This is why there's room for that. All the previous religions also had the same aspect to it. When you look at all the religions of the past, religions that are divine, not cults. Cults obviously have nothing to talk about, and hence they are very limited in their understanding or their scope. But Islam and religion that is divine talks about things that are really beyond matter. And hence there's room for alteration, there's room for distortion, there's room for misunderstandings. And these misunderstandings are not new, and especially in the religion of Islam, which is the religion of Rasulullah. Because Rasulullah came as Rahmatan lil Alameen. And by Rahmatan lil Alameen, we mean a person that Imam Ali explains. He says that the difference between the messenger and the rest of the prophets before him was that the rest of the prophets made things apparent. They spoon-fed the people. They spoon-fed the people. They gave them what they want, but Rasulullah did not spoon-feed the people. He showed them how to think. He showed them how to reach conclusion, and hence he gave them the room to grow. This is the method of the Prophet. This is the method of Islam. That Islam gives you the time and the room and the space where you can reach the conclusion. Rasulullah just gave us the tools and the instruments that were necessary for us to reach the conclusions, to reach that high. That's where we see the difference is. And hence Rasulullah also warned about these distortions that are going to take place. And these misunderstandings and these different shapes of Islam that are going to come about. Let's look at these words of the Prophet. He says that after me, the foundation of Islam will be ripped apart into pieces. Meaning the basis, the foundation of Islam is going to be ripped apart into pieces. And every piece that is thrown away, with every piece that is thrown away by the ummah, by the people, a distorted piece is going to be put in its place, and the people are going to follow that distorted piece. They will not follow the actual Islam that came down to them. This is a warning that Rasulullah gave to the people. In this hadith, it's clear, and in the last years of the Prophet, you see that the major concern of the Prophet was the distortions that are going to take place in Islam. And he is warning us about this, that the people after me are going to tear Islam into pieces. They are going to rip it apart, and they'll throw it away, and they'll replace that piece. In fact, they will replace that piece with a distorted, with a fake, a fraudulent piece that people are going to follow as Islam. And this warning that the Prophet is giving is very clear. Very clear. He also in many places said that just like the religions of the past that Jesus brought and Moses brought were torn apart and were changed and altered, just like that, my religion will also be distorted, torn apart. Why are we speaking about this subject? The reason we are speaking about this subject is because one of the major goals and mission of Imam Hussein was to stop the distortion that is taking place in regards to Islam. One of the things that he stood up for and the things that he did achieve, amongst the things that he couldn't, was the fact that he stood up against the distortions that were taking place, the fabrications and the innovations that were taking place in Islam, and what was Islam was being taken away, and what is not Islam was being added in to Islam, and was this whole shape of Islam was taking a shape that is not Islam. It was completely different. And one of the mission of Imam Hussein was to stand up against these distortions. If you look at all the missions that Imam Hussein had, and all of them divinely appointed, divinely given goals that Imam Hussein followed, you see that a lot of these goals were not achieved by Imam Hussein, meaning that they didn't come to fruition. They weren't realized. Look at all the missions that Imam Hussein had. For example, he had the mission to wake up the people from their slumber. You know, it's a great goal, and Imam Hussein wants to do it, and you know what? It's going to happen. It's in the process of happening, but it wasn't achieved by his shahadat or right after his shahadat. People did not wake up. Even today, how many people are actually woken up to stand up for right and to fight against injustice? How many people have woken up that? We know it ourselves, right? When we see injustice happening, for example, the Black Lives Matter. When you look at what's happening out there, how many of us are concerned about it? You know, we see that some organizations give lip service, but how many really are concerned of the horrible atrocities that are happening to a people? We see that it's very little. So, and these are Shias we are talking about, believers in Imam Hussein. So Imam Hussein, one of the mission of Imam Hussein was to wake up the people. It really didn't work out, but it's happening, and inshallah it will work out. One of the missions of Imam Hussein was to establish justice. Did he? Did he establish justice through his shahadat? Well, no, he didn't. But it's going to happen eventually when the Imam of the time comes back. When he will come back, he will establish that justice, and this is a whole process that Imam Hussein started, but it hasn't happened yet. So that goal wasn't achieved, it wasn't realized yet. One of the goals of Imam Hussein was to dethrone Yazid. Well, how did that work out? When you look at it, Yazid stayed, and then, in fact, even after Yazid, the people who came after Yazid were worse than him. Yes, if you look in the history of the Muslim rulers, if Imam Hussein's goal was to eradicate zalim and oppressive and tyrant rulers, it didn't work out because Yazid obviously was a horrible person, a disgusting personality, but the people who came after Yazid were a lot worse. In fact, they were so bad that they make Yazid look decent. It's like, for example, nowadays in the presidency of Trump, we actually think that George Bush was a decent person or an intelligent person or half decent. Just like that, if you look at the rulers after Yazid, they were so terrible, they were so bad that they made Yazid look good. So Imam Hussein didn't change that. And when we look at all the history, we see that it was horrible. The whole environment became worse after Imam Hussein. The environment became worse. Yazid was one person who was debaucherous, who was sinful, openly denouncing Islam and trampling the laws of Islam openly. But, in Yazid's own time, a little bit after his time, Yazid's lifestyle became the lifestyle of Medina. Yes, the city of the Prophet. It was known for parties, singing, dancing, drinking. These parties were frequent in Medina. In fact, the largest crowd that was pulled together was not for Eid prayer or Friday prayer. The largest crowd in Medina was gathered for a female singer. A woman singer who was going to Mecca, she stopped in Medina, so she pulled the largest crowd of people out to see or listen to her sing. This is Medina. When? In the year 65 Hijri, 4 years after Imam Hussein, 65 years after the Hijrat of the Prophet. This is what has become of the Islamic society. It was that bad. So when you look at all of this situation, Imam Hussein had many goals, but one particular goal that he did achieve and that was realized was to stand up against the distortions in Islam by the rulers of Islam, by those who rule and call themselves the Khalifa. For example, when you look at Muawiyah, he made Friday prayer on Wednesday and the people followed it. And he laughed at the people and he told his courtiers, he said, you see how stupid the people are, how dumb the people are. They will do anything that I say. Yes, a person like Muawiyah could change a established rule, pray Friday prayer on Wednesday. I mean, the name Friday prayer tells you which day to pray it. And this is what's happening. The leaders of Islam and the leaders of Islam could say anything they want and it would change. For example, when you look at Omar, he just added in as-salatu khayrun minan naum. Where did this statement come from? Who just added that in, and people still follow it as an Islam, and they do it as sawab, and they think that it is rewardable for them to do it, or saying Ameen in the prayer. Where did that come from? Ameen. And now you can't pray without saying Ameen. It is now a part of Islam. And that's how it became. So anything that was being added was being added. And this is one of the distinctions of Islam, the highlights of Islam, that Islam gave the room for people to have their misunderstandings so that they can think, they can reflect, and they can ponder over things that are complicated and deep. Because Islam goes into the deep, into the depth of knowledge, into depths of human beings, into the depths of reality. And that's why there's room for people to grow and to make mistakes in misunderstandings. Let's look a little bit deeper as to what Imam Hussein was doing. Why was he doing this? Let's look a little bit deeper as to what's going on here. When we see that, you see, the problem was Imam Hussein didn't rise up to help the people. People are Muslim. Yazid is a tyrant, and Imam Hussein needed to pick them up from the yoke of tyranny that Yazid was putting on them. That wasn't why Imam Hussein stood. That wasn't the issue at all. You see, the issue that happened at that time, or was happening, a reality that was happening, is that Islam and Allah and the Prophet gave a lot of power to the leaders of Muslims. Yes. You see, Rasulullah empowered Muslim leaders. And these empowered Muslim leaders were able to add or subtract things from Islam because they got the power from Allah and Rasulullah. How? Well, there's an ayat that says, Atiullaha wa atiu Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. That obey Allah, obey the Prophet, and those who are in charge of you. This ayat is giving people, the leaders who are ulul amr, who have the power in their hands to do what they want. Now, this is a whole different subject, that they were wrong leaders, but the power was given. Anyone who is the rightful leader does have the power to do what he wants. But Allah had chosen infallibles for that. He had chosen imams for that and Ahlulbayt for that. But people rejected Ahlulbayt, they went somewhere else. But the idea is that whoever becomes the representative of the Prophet has that power. And everyone knew that. It is something that was there. And so what's happening is that the leaders of Muslims symbolized Islam. Whatever they did and whatever they said became Islam. What was supposed to happen with Ahlul Bayt was happening with these so-called leaders. And people were thinking that, yes, because they are the Khalifa of Allah and the representative and the wasi of the Prophet, they are Amir al-Mu'mineen, they need to obviously follow them and do whatever they say, and whatever they say becomes Islam. You see how Islam, the danger was, where the danger was. That was the danger. It was a catastrophe waiting to happen. That Yazid, who is now a drunkard, who drank, and debaucherous, with no morals, that way of life now was becoming something legitimized. That not just is not bad, but it is rewardable. Yes, rewardable. Can you believe that? You know, Shimr, person who killed Imam Hussein, Shimr, he said about himself, he said that I am a very lucky man. I'm a very fortunate man. Allah has blessed me. And I thank Allah for the blessings that He has given me. Truly, it's very something. Allah chose me for something special. Truly, I must be blessed. Someone must have made du'as for me that have been answered. That Allah gave me the opportunity. What is that? Why are you so blessed? He says, because I had the chance to obey Amir al-Mu'mineen and kill his enemy Hussein. That is not a blessing Allah gives everyone. I must be blessed. This is shimr. Killing Imam Hussein not only has become legitimate, but rewardable. He is thinking that he's going to be rewarded for this. This is what happens when you think that wrong is Islam. This is the distortion that is dangerous, and that's why you see Imam Hussein is rising up. He rose up to stop these distortions, to stop Islam taking on a shape that is not Islam. This is really when Imam Hussein stood up and he stood against this and he stopped this. It is one of the things that Imam Hussein actually achieved in his movement through his shahadat right away. Because after that, there were zalim ulama, there were zalim rulers and tyrants. But their actions were not equated to Islam. They did not legitimize Islam or dhulm or oppression. They didn't legitimize oppression. They didn't change Islam. Everyone knew that they're wrong. They drink, well, that's their problem. They drink. It's not a part of Islam. Imam Hussein made this change. Otherwise, if you look before that, rulers, not only did they have the power to do it, but they were very proud of doing it. They would openly say that Rasulullah did this, but I'm telling you that this is not a part of Islam anymore. Like, for example, Omar, who has a very, you can say, big resume for adding and subtracting into Islam as much as anyone through in history we see. Truly, Umar ibn Khattab. Look at Umar. He himself says, and it's known. For example, one hadith he says, Mut'atan kanata ala ahd Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ana anha anhuma. He says there are two mut'as that Rasulullah allowed. It was in the Islam of Rasulullah, and ana anha anhuma, and I am prohibiting it. I am making it haram on you. I am making haram on you. Wa uaqibu alayhima, and anyone who does it is going to be punished. This is the mut'atul nisa wa mut'atul hajj. The mut'a with the woman and the mut'a of hajj. Tawaf al-nisa. Two things that I am banning. Rasulullah allowed it, but I am banning and I am making it haram. The audacity of someone to just go away from what Rasulullah is saying in this fashion and to tell people that it's not a part of Islam anymore. That anyone who does it is going to be punished. This was the audacity in rulers. They thought that they could do anything they want and get away with it. And this is the danger that was happening that Imam Hussein stood for. So the issue was not people, the issue was not dhulm, the issue was not mazlum, the issue was not any of those things. The issue was Islam. That's why Imam Hussein says, wa alal Islam as-salam. That my salam be on Islam, this Islam. When a person like Yazid becomes the ruler of Islam, we should say farewell to Islam. We need to stand up now because we see that Islam is going away. Now that's going to be misunderstood, and that is the danger now. As long as Islam remains Islam and the halal of Muhammad remains halal of Muhammad and the haram of Muhammad remains haram of Muhammad, then you know what? People can do whatever they want, but Islam is in its place, the truth in the religion of Allah that everyone must follow and adhere to. And everything else would be wrong. And Imam Hussein changed that. Rasulullah's concern in his life was this. And Imam Hussein's movement, and one of the major goals of Imam Hussein was this, to stop this distortion from happening. And we also must see the Islam that we are following. Is it the Islam that Allah sent and that Rasulullah brought and that Imam Hussein died for? Or is this the Islam that has nothing to do with that, is now a fake Islam, a fraudulent Islam? And that's the discussion that we will be having. What is real Islam and what is fake Islam? Because Rasulullah said there is room for fake Islam to grow. Imam Hussein just stopped it from one aspect, that is the rulers of Islam changing Islam. But the opinions of people are still there. The views of people are still there. Still, you see in every era Islam changing this way or that way, and it has to be now taken back to what it actually was, that the way that the Rasulullah brought it, the way that we need to practice it in the real sense. That is what we want to discuss, because there are many versions of Islam. The people who came to kill Imam Hussein were religious people. They were also religious people. They prayed. Really, they prayed. They were not evil people, drunks and all that. No. They were very religious people. Umar ibn Saad was a renowned religious personality. The person that Ibn Ziyad had appointed, he was able to gather 40,000 people. Why do you think that 40,000 people listened to Umar ibn Saad? Ibn Ziyad couldn't do that. Ibn Ziyad is a two-bit hustler. No one cared for him. No one had any respect for him. But he knew that if he can give this Umar ibn Saad, if he can bring him on board, then you know what? The respect that he has in religious circles, that he has as a person who is religious, person who is godly and divine, this can bring the people to understand that this fight is legitimate. And he brought Umar ibn Saad. 40,000 people came. These people who were Muslim, religious. Imam Hussein became shaheed because religion was altered. It had this very ugly face now. It was disfigured. So now people were thinking, this is Islam. What we are doing is what Allah wants from us. Really, Shimr cut the head, beheaded Imam Hussein. Shimr beheaded Imam Hussein and gave the head of Imam Hussein to Quli, his henchman. He gave the head of Imam Hussein to Quli and said, hold this head. I haven't made my Asr prayer yet. Let me go and make my prayer. What Islam is this? What kind of Islam is this? The Islam that Allah sent? The Islam that Rasulullah brought? The Islam that Imam Hussein died for? Is this that Islam? While Shimr was making his Asr prayer, Imam Hussein was being disfigured, disembodied, disgraced. His clothes were being snatched off while Shimr was making his prayer next to him. They came and they did whatever they could to take whatever they can and to humiliate Imam Hussein in every way, and he is going on praying and saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. My friends, what kind of Islam is this? This is why it's very important for us to know what Islam is. What is Islam? It's very important for us to know. Tonight, we are here for the first time, and truly the first nighters and the people who are here in the majalis of Imam Hussein on the first night are special. They are special. The reason they're special is because Imam Hussein hasn't come here yet. It's one thing that, Imam Hussein is here, so now everyone comes. It's different. No. People who come before Imam Hussein and wait for him to arrive, their status is different. You who are attending the first night of Majlis before Imam Hussein is coming tomorrow. Tonight you're here and you are a part of this. You are commemorating Imam Hussein before he has come here. This is special. This is special. You have a special place. Let me tell you a story. There are people who came with Imam Hussein. There were people who came after Imam Hussein. Most of them did. But did you know that there were people who came before Imam Hussein to Karbala? Probably you didn't. There were people who were there before Imam Hussein. They were waiting for him. Let me tell you a story. A person in Kufa, he tells the story. He says that when I was a child, I used to go with my father on business trips around the city of Kufa. They lived in Kufa, and the father used to do business around in the small little towns and villages around Kufa. And he would do the business and they would go there. And he would say that they would pass by this desolate land, a desert, nothing there. They would pass by that and they would see this person. And he lived in a tent. And they would see, why is he living in a tent in the middle of nowhere? So they would see him all the time and they would see the tent all the time. And one time he says, my father wanted to see and he had time. So he says, let's stop by and ask this person, what's his story? So they stopped by and they asked the person, why are you here in this place in the middle of nowhere? Why do you live here for? And we see you here, you're alone, you have no one else with you. He said, well, my story is long. So he started explaining that when I was young, I used to be in Medina with my father. And one time we went to Rasulullah. Rasulullah was there. And we used to go to his gatherings and when he speaks. Once when we were there in the gathering, Rasulullah started crying loudly. He started to cry loudly. I said, we were like, Ya Rasulullah, what is the matter? What happened? Why are you crying like this? And Rasulullah then told us events that did not happen yet, events that are going to happen in the future. He told us that his grandson would be killed, that he will become shaheed like this, that this event would happen, and this army would come, and this person would come. And he said that anyone who was there to defend my son, to defend my grandson, anyone who would be there to defend my grandson, he is going to be in Jannat. He is going to be in heaven. He is going to be with me in heaven. I promise you that. My father and everyone who was there was like asking more questions. He was saying more as to where it is. And then he gave us a location after where it is. And I followed that. And I came all the way here. And this is where Rasulullah had said that Hussein is going to come. So I'm waiting here. That one day Hussein is going to come here. And that day I'm going to defend him. I will be here. Some people came before Imam Hussein did. Friends, those are special people. You know why? Because Imam Hussein is going to come tomorrow. Before him, his mother Fatima has come to Karbala. She's already in Karbala. She's already crying for Imam Hussein. She's already preparing for Imam Hussein. Lucky are you who are sitting with Fatima tonight, crying for her son. Lucky are you who are here on this night doing the mourning of Imam Hussein while no one else is here. It's a desolate land. No one is here. Imam Hussein's caravan is coming tomorrow. The army would come after that. But today, only today, Fatima is sitting there and Bibi Fatima is crying out to Hussein and saying, my son Hussein, I'm waiting for you to come. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا محمود بحق محمد، يا الله بحق علي، يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة، Ya Hussein bihaqi Hassan, Ya Qadimul Hassan bihaqi Hussein. Oh Allah, give us the tawfiq to be on the right path. Give us the wisdom to understand your guidance. Hasten the reign experience of our Imam and make us his helper when it comes. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام. السلام عليكم أيها الإمام الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. السلام عليك أيها الإمام زين العابدين ومحمد الباقر وجعفر الصادق وموسى الكاظم وعلي الرضا. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك أيها الإمام محمد الجواد. السلام عليك أيها الإمام العلي الهادي. السلام عليك أيها الإمام الحسن العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان الأمان الأمان. العجلة العجلة العجل يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليكم يا جميع أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن